we can't just say don't abort. We have to be willing to say, if we're going to say abortion is wrong, then we have to say, let's walk with these women, let's adopt these babies, or help them get jobs, or help support them in whatever way that we can. I think for me, that's one of the biggest things that God taught me through this. And so everybody's not going to be called to do that, but as Mike was talking about the church, but we can walk alongside people who are. There are other ways, because we know God's not calling every family to adopt, though. Like we said, we're all.
But you can go for it. It's okay.
If it's on your heart, just pray about it. Just, it's not us, it's God. It's between you and Him. But I do think there are other ways to say, we're not just saying don't do this and then sitting back. That you can say, no, we think abortion is wrong, and we want to help out however we can. It's not adopting, but how can we help?
Yeah.
And I think that's a question every believer can ask.
I knew that sometimes a child will bond with one parent and not the other. And so I was fully prepared for her to not bond with Joel. And she hated me. And I just remember thinking, am I going to go home and she's going to love everybody but me? And, what if this is how it is and I'm the one left out? And I was feeling kind of sorry for myself. And I looked down at her little face and I just prayed and said, okay, God, even if she never loves me, I am going to choose to love her like you love me. Even when I'm really unlovable and there's nothing nice about me and, there's so much sin in my life, and you love me anyway. And you just keep on loving me and showing me mercy. And so I'm going to do that for Shaz. I'm going to love her as long as it takes, no matter what. It took weeks. It wasn't months, thankfully. And she still had her great accent. And she said, I did not like you in India. And I said, I know you didn't. I said, but you like me now, right? And she said, oh, I love you now, Mommy. And so I think sometimes the misconception is it's going to be easy, or it's going to be, those problems will be resolved quickly. And they're not always, but it's worth it.
Just because you brought that baby home doesn't mean that, okay, we're good now. There's a lot there. I mean, my heart broke every time I thought about the girls' birth moms. And with our first, I kept trying to think, is there any way that she can keep this baby and raise her? Because it just broke my heart that she she saw herself in this position of not being able to. And just all the different emotions involved, to having to feel like you have to prove to the court system that you can parent this child, and being an open book. The social workers and the government knows every detail about your finances, where you go shopping, how much you spend on groceries, what your parenting plans are. Everyone's knows.
We're like, we don't know.
We've never done this before. Yeah.
It is overwhelming. It's overwhelming legally. It's overwhelming financially. There are a lot of details. It's overwhelming emotionally, all of those things. And so I think that the notion, if I'm sitting here and I'm going, well, I want to start thinking or praying about adoption. I mean, even now, right, we've done it, and my head starts spinning. It's like, oh, that's so much. And yet the reality is, God in His kindness just kept putting people around us who had been in different places before to help us navigate those things. And so the beauty of serving a God who is sovereign over all things is He's not like, oh, I need to help them, I meant to do it. He's like, no, man, I'm lining all this stuff up. And He's not just doing that for us. It's like everybody
yes. He does that for. And so it's a scary process. And thank goodness we don't get to see it all at the beginning, but He does. He provides every step along the way, and will do that.
Yeah. And so I think that sense of, could I really handle this and do this? No. That's inherent in the gospel. There's lots of things we can't handle. And so there's a beauty that we end up throwing ourselves upon Christ in that. And then there's a beauty of the community of faith and how God brings people together and rallies them together to help in that. And so I think that one of the fun things for us was just seeing, we didn't really anticipate the church not being excited. But we had no category for all of the ways that they were going to be excited and how eager they were to help in a variety of different ways. And can we do this and can we help with that? And not just when Ellie came home. I mean, that stuff was happening long before that was even on the table. And so I think that's been one of the most pleasant surprises, is just how eager people are to participate. And I mean, for us now, like, man, we're all in. And so if someone's like, hey, we're thinking about it, hey, we're praying for you, here's a good book to read, here's this, like, what do you need? We'll talk about, because we know the value of it. And so I think you start seeing that. And it has a way of kind of self-perpetuating itself. Because people see it, and then it's like, well, I want to be a part of that, or I want to share in that. And then they take their turn in the process.
Well, absolutely. Why would I not want to give life, to a child? There's just no reason not to, when you know that there are options out there. If you want to be a single mom, you can certainly get a lot of support and a lot of help. After 35 years, seeing my baby as a grown, beautiful woman with children of her own, there's just no comparison between making a decision to get rid of a child and seeing how beautiful life is. Certainly it wasn't easy, but the other would have been tragic, To end a life is just something you don't really get over. What that child have been like? How could that child have blessed others? All of those things you need to think about. God allows life to happen for a reason. He's got a purpose. It's not random, So if you know that God is real and that He has His own purposes for how things happen, then you have to go with life. I'm amazed at how God works things out. It's just amazing. And, if I never got to see my daughter as a grown person, I still would know that out there's a woman who God is taking care of. And she is a very sweet Christian woman and has raised her kids to be Christians too. So it's wonderful to just see God's plan and know that you can trust Him.
Whether it's a baby in a mother's womb or a child on the streets of India who needs to be adopted, each child is precious in God's sight, and each one should have people that are advocating for them and trying to help. Obviously, not everybody can adopt, but everybody could have a heart of adoption. The innocent should be spoken up for. The Word of God speaks clearly about that. In fact, I have a verse that says, "Speak up for those who can't speak for themselves. Speak up for the rights of all those who are poor." So I love that aspect of speaking up for the poor, speaking up for those who can't speak up for themselves, whether it's a baby in a mother's womb or it is a child on the streets of India. We can speak up for those who can't speak for themselves.
Well, I'll tell you, man, when it comes to adoption, I will stop short of telling every person that they should adopt, but I kind of want to tell everybody that they should adopt. And here's why. Because adoption has blown open the doors for me in understanding the gospel. In the same way that getting married helped me better understand the gospel, in the same way that being a dad helped me better understand the gospel, adoption has probably more so than anything else, helped me to best understand what God does for us. And that notion, like what we'll talk about, oh, you're made a son or a daughter in God through Christ. But adoption, like I get it, because I look at Ellie and Ellie we don't share DNA, right? Like you do DNA tests, they're different. That girl is my daughter. And no one could convince me otherwise. And so when you realize, okay, I get that with her, And so then when God looks at us and he says, you are my son, you are my daughter, adoption is the means by which God does that. And so I think there is a just rich, profound, beautiful element to that. And that's why part of me when I would say, oh, you should adopt. Yes, we want to care for children in need, and yes, we want to be supportive of moms, and yes, we value life. But there's a part of it that maybe it sounds funny to say this. Hey, selfishly, you're gonna cherish the gospel, and you're gonna value and treasure Jesus in new and profound ways, because it's gonna open your eyes to see what he's done for you.